Today's podcast is brought to you by both of our businesses. Number one, Current Media Co., where we create video and marketing content for brands and people. If you've got a brand or you're a person, let's create some cool shit together. Email me directly, patrick@currentmedia.co. That's patrick@currentmedia.co, not .com. And our most delicious business, Our City Coffee. Coffee that cares. You know, every bag we sell, we give back to a kid here in Los Angeles locally. We've also teamed up with some really cool nonprofits over the past year that we've given back to them as well, including Beat the Streets, Fight for the Forgotten, the Kevin Harvick Foundation, the Boys and Girls Club. All that being said, of course, we want to give back with the coffee, but the coffee's really damn good too. To show our appreciation for you listening to this podcast, use the code BS and you'll get 15% off any and all purchases of our coffee. That's ourcitycoffee.com. Use the code BS for 15% off. Today on the show, we've got director, producer Micah Brown, fresh off his 30 for 30 Chuck and Tito that just came out last night, actually. Was gracious enough to give us 30 minutes of his time here. He had just gotten out of his old high school. They did a really cool screening for him of the documentary. And if you haven't watched the documentary, it's damn good. It follows the UFC from its beginning to its first real stars, Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz. We talked about how it came about, how long it took to put all this together, logistics of all this, the process of putting together a full 30 for 30 movie, something we've tried to do in the past, weren't successful. We talk about that part. We also talk about potential new UFC-based, MMA-based 30 for 30. Really cool guy, really fun conversation. This is also our first podcast that we didn't actually do in person. We were going to do a Zoom conversation. He was having logistical issues on his end because he was in the middle of nowhere, Kansas. As we like to say, knees bent, head on a swivel. We ended up adjusting. We just FaceTimed, put it on camera, so the audio quality is a little off, but still pretty solid, and you still get the same damn picture. If you're watching on video, obviously I'm videoing a phone, a little different than what we normally do, but I think it turned out really damn good. Again, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoy.
Right now I'm in Nebraska. My parents live here, and so my high school rented out a theater for me, and they showed the film last night. So
that's cool.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it was cool, man. It's like the local theater. There's another filmmaker in town that was the creator of The Blacklist, and he made a little movie theater. They show boutique films and all this stuff, and then they screen The Blacklist every week, and he does a Q&A. And so they redid that movie theater, and so I was there and watched it last night when it came out. It was pretty fun.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
Super cool. How did you? So you played at Kansas, right? Football?
Yeah, played football and ran track at Kansas.
Okay.
Yep.
How old are you? You got to be right around our age. A little younger, I bet.
I'm 30. Yeah, I'm 33.
Okay. 35. He's 34. We played at Bowling Green.
Okay.
At least started at Bowling Green. I swear we played you.
Oh, nice.
At some point while you were there then. But
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah. So we started in football and then did a bunch of stuff, got into video, and now we do video marketing content for brands and people.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. How did you get into?
This is awesome.
Yeah. How did you get into all this video stuff?
I always wanted to make movies ever since I was a kid. You
Yeah.
know, this was something that I dreamed of, and I was just kind of made to do. And when I got done playing football, I went out and did movie trailers, and I was in LA for a year doing that. And in that year time, my coach got fired, and I was like, oh man! But they hired my dad's best friend, and so I was like, oh, this is cool. And so they hired me back to come working at the school, and I started getting into documentary then. I did a follow series with the football team, and
cool.
Kind of got my feet wet in the sports documentary world, and then from there started my own company, and 8 years later I'm doing 30 for 30. It's pretty sick.
How crazy is that? When you look at
so awesome.
ESPN 30 for 30 is the pinnacle of sports docs at this point.
I know, man. I know. I mean, that was honestly what my dream was when I first saw him come out. I was like, because I think a little bit when you're out of film school, you're kind of like, man, I want to do narrative film. And you always, and I still have that desire a little bit. I think I'll do it, but documentary kind of felt like, am I compromising my dream to do this?
Yeah.
And then, when I saw 30 for 30 come out, I was like, oh God, these guys are doing it right. And it kind of made me feel like I was at home with my dream. And so to be able to do it, I'm like, this is exactly what I was made to do.
Yeah. We started video 4 years ago.
Something like that, yeah. 3-4 years
I can barely move my neck. I
Yeah.
fucked up my neck the other day. God damn.
Power cleaning or snatching.
No, I clean and jerk, and it was like lightweight. I put it over my head. Anyway, 35. That's what happens. But
Don't do that stuff anymore, man.
No, after that,
in football, you gotta you don't take. No, man, you don't take your pants off at the beach. You need to
Right.
go the straight, chest and arms.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Yeah.
I feel you. Yeah. And especially we're like a mile from the beach right now. But so we've been doing video for like 4 years, and again, it's usually like smaller stuff for brands, or not necessarily smaller stuff, but stuff for brands and small businesses. And we pitched last year. We pitched a year and a half ago, maybe at this point. So my freshman year was Urban Meyer's second year at Bowling Green, his first college job. So we pitched. Actually talked to ESPN, got to like the second or third round. I don't know how exactly they worked that, but we got their emails, had a phone screening, and they're like, just not enough. And we were kind of pitching Urban as like his startup, like his first gig, his startup, bunch of crazy stories, stuff like that, and never got past that point. They just it wasn't enough for them. And then 6 months later, we had all that craziness go down at Ohio State, and Zach Smith, who was my roommate my freshman year in college. And all that nuts. So we never really got past that. How did this all come about on your end? Did you pitch something? Did they come to you? What was the deal?
Yeah, no, I pitched. So basically, I do a lot of cinematography for ESPN. And so I have a background with working with a ton of their producers, and I've gained a lot of trust within the sports, genre.
Right.
And having done a long-form documentary with Showtime before, especially dealing with mixed martial arts in Muay Thai, I think that was really big. And, so what I did is I pitched this project, and, it was on two guys that could kind of check a bunch of boxes, right? It could check the box of, you could tell the history of the sport, you could check the growth of the sport, and you can check these background stories of these rivals who are the most iconic two fighters, in the UFC. And so I think it might have been the fastest greenlit 30 for 30 ever, because they were like, yeah, sounds great, let's do this.
Yeah.
And another thing too is they had this third fight element, where you had something that you don't really typically see in a 30 for 30, where they're going to fight again, and you have the opportunity to follow them up to the conclusion of the trilogy. And so I think all those things combined made a perfect fit.
Yeah, sorry, you didn't watch that, did you?
Yeah.
You got the fight?
No.
I got the fight.
Yeah.
That third fight. I thought that was interesting that you included that in there. And because it wasn't the prettiest thing in the world. Chuck, when Chuck went out there, it was limping going out there. I was like, holy shit. And for me, it was a last minute decision even to buy it. But it was interesting to see the finish to it, I guess. I mean, they're not going to do it again.
Right.
Was that your call, or who else within the group of people behind the movie idea was it to put that in there?
Yeah, that was what really intrigued me about it. I think for me, it checked a bunch of boxes. I typically do follow documentaries. I don't really do historical documentaries.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have interest in doing a ton of historical documentaries, even though this one kind of turned into a little bit of a historical documentary. It was something that I don't typically do. And so that was what got me excited about it, was that you got to see the conclusion of this chapter. You got to kind of see firsthand what the apes of the sport are doing to different guys. This is really the first class of people that have gone through it. We've seen what boxing does to Muhammad Ali. We've seen what boxing does to other, fighting athletes. And this isn't a knock on the UFC. We just haven't seen what it does. Any big corporation, whether it's MLB, NBA, NFL, especially NFL, you're able to see, hey, this is kind of like the sacrifice that these guys put themselves through in order to compete at this high level. So that intrigued me. And then you also have this element where, Tito Ortiz has been saying, we need to be in the boxing model. We should be getting more of the cut. We should be getting more of this. And he finally gets that. And you also have Chuck's character changing to where, initially he was saying, no, I'm fine with this model. Let's just fight. And then Chuck Liddell himself, is back. in wanting this model. So I thought that was kind of interesting as well. So those elements to it, I think, is why it was included ultimately in the film.
Did you have any issues logistically putting these people together? Was anyone kind of hands off at first, or no?
No, they're all really professional, and they were cool.
Cool.
They both said yes to the project very, very early on. I think one of the things I'm proud about this project is that I think it gives Tito, for the first time, his due and his place in UFC history. I think a lot of the other products that have been made about him have made him as kind of like an afterthought, like he's the guy that got knocked out by Chuck. Whereas I think in this film, it shows that he was a significant part to the UFC being what it is today.
Yeah. How long of a process? So from getting accepted in your pitch and everything to wrapping everything up, logistics, and then editing, how long of a process is that from start to finish?
It was I think it was like 14 months.
Okay.
And so it might have been a little bit less than that. But yeah, it was over a year, and it came together fast, man. I mean, we got this thing going because that third fight was happening. And what I found is often when there's a deadline like that, like we got to go, things tend to happen a lot faster.
Right.
And so, yeah. And so it moved really quick, and, it felt like neck-breaking speed when we were in editing. But, it was a long-growing process for sure.
Yeah, 14 months. So what would you ideally, time-wise, what would you want to have to produce something like that?
I think that's about right. I think the hard part for us was that we had to start editing pretty late, and then, our schedule was kind of changing because they were trying to figure out the best time to air it. So it was originally going to air in January, then it got moved up, and then it got moved back. And so I think whenever you have a moving timeline, it's nobody's fault. It's just a programming, thing that you got to figure out. And as a filmmaker, you just gotta figure it out, man. And so, I think it was a good timeline, though. We got everything put together, and that's about what you need. Any faster than that, man, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
You got to have at least 16 weeks of edit, at least, in order to get your head around it. It's kind of a process. There's a story you write, a story you shoot, and a story you edit, and you hope that the story you edit is close to the one that you imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how the process works.
Yeah. Why now did it come out yesterday? What was the timing around? What was the thought process for them?
Yeah, so I think there's a big fight that's coming up on the 18th or something like that, and so they wanted to get it on air and then on ESPN Plus on the 18th, and so I think that was the best time that they had to center around this big fight that's coming up.
Do you watch all the fights? We background on us for UFC perspective. We used to be. Our uncle would come with Tank Abbott VHSs and UFC 1-2, like the old, not 1-2, I guess, but like 4 or 5, whatever Tank Abbott was around. We were like 13, whatever we were young, and he'd be like, "No girls, we're going downstairs," and we're watching, UFC, and it would be Tank Abbott just murking people.
Yeah.
And then we stopped watching for 10, 15 years, and we got really back into it, starting with the Ronda Holly fight. 4 years ago.
Yeah.
4 years ago.
Yeah, just about 4.
And now we watch everything.
Yep.
Like we don't miss an ESPN Plus card.
Yeah, I mean it's been a process for me. I think when I remember in middle school, high school, them being in the back of the video store, and you kind of walk by and you're like, "What is this?"
Oh yeah.
You're just kind of like the curious kid. You're sitting there, you're like, I guess this is really bloody, and I want to see it for some reason.
Right.
I don't know why. Yeah. And then you might go to a slumber party, and somebody has one, and you're just like, let's fast forward to the part where the guy gets kicked in the nuts.
Yeah.
And you watch that part over and over and over.
Yep.
And then, the video games for me, playing with Chuck Liddell and just doing the Superman punch over and over and over, And, I mean, that was kind of the background that I had prior to it. I enjoyed it casually, but I wasn't a super fan until I really started digging in. And now I think it's my favorite sport.
Us too.
That's how we are, too. We were former, NFL was the top, and now, MMA, we don't miss any in MMA. It's just, it's different once you dive in, and, like yourself, the storytelling around it has been so much better the last handful of years, and I think that helps draw people to the sport, too.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And when you understand the sport a little bit better, you appreciate it a little bit more because you understand the athleticism that these guys have. It's not just, oh, this guy, could punch really hard.
Uh-huh.
It's like, oh, man, this guy is actually a freak athlete. When you watch John Jones fight, you're like, this guy's next level, man. Or you watch Stylebender, you're like, I appreciate so much about this. He's just on a different level.
Yeah, we've done a handful of videos with people, more in like almost embedded like videos where there's 7 to 10 minute clips, and we've been in the training sessions. We've been a part of that. Like you see that, you see what really goes into it. You got a whole new appreciation for it. And for me, the toughness, like my first fight going to in person was Conor Khabib last year.
Oh wow, jeez.
Yeah, I know. Right?
My first one.
Like what?
That's a good one to start on, right? But like even just being there in person, we were like 15 rows up. Like to be there to see that, it's so different than even just watching it on TV.
Oh yeah, I mean, and they do a better job with their live production than any other sports team ever.
No, not even close.
I mean, you go and you're like, I mean, it is very much. Have you ever been to like a WWE event?
Yeah, not like 10, 12 years, but
like
yeah.
That.
Yeah.
It's like that, only with like real thrills when you're just hanging on the edge of your seat to see somebody get knocked out. And the undercards are great. I think that's the thing that people don't realize is not just like the main event. Like, I'll watch anyone pick somebody out of the stands and get kicked in the face.
Right.
And it's going to be like, this is sweet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Totally.
And you underestimate that, and they make the spectacle just as big. And so it's really fun.
Yeah. You've been, you only went to the one. So
UFC?
Yeah.
A couple.
A couple?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, anyway. But I've been to 4 now, and every one I go to, I'm there for the first fight, and I watch every fight through.
Oh, jeez. You're a real trooper.
Oh yeah. My lady, her dad coaches a couple of guys. He trains Uriah Hall. Used to train Chael Sonnen, and works with a couple of guys. Roy Nelson for his next fight. So he, when Uriah had the fight in LA, when they had to move the John Jones thing, they were right here in our backyard. So we went to that fight, and same thing with her. Like we're there first fight, we're there the whole damn card.
That's awesome. Well, hey, you pay for it, might as well,
right?
Well,
no, we didn't, but
yeah.
It was free.
Hey, let me get with you guys. Yeah. Let me come hang out with you guys next
Deal.
You guys are getting the McGregor seats. Come on, man.
So that was I know, that was crazy. So we worked with AirAsia. We did some video content for them, and the guy hits us up Thursday night before the fight and was like, "Hey, do you guys want to go? I got 2 tickets because AirAsia is a partner of theirs. I got 2 more tickets. You guys want to go?" Tim had just gone to Hawaii with his family, like the day before, 2 days before, and he's like, "Dude, I can't come on like 2 days' notice to go see it." So I take my lady, and I was like, "Hey, you want to go?" I'm in. Let's go. So we end up going that next day, and that's our first fight ever. I know, right?
That is awesome. Awesome.
It was pretty damn good. Craziest fight of all time.
Man. There you go. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, when they jumped in, it was crazy. I was watching on TV like. I think you guys at Buffalo Wild Wings. So you were at the fight. I was at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Right. And now you're doing the 30 for 30 on the UFC, and we're talking to you through FaceTime.
Yeah.
What's funny about that too? A bunch of people were like texting us like, "Are you guys okay?" And we're like, "It's not that serious. It might look like, look at the news. It might look like craziness is ensuing, but it wasn't that big of a deal."
You kind of got that McGregor look to you.
I've gotten that a few times. I got that one time at an airport. This was like 4 years ago. Before it was starting to get big, but not blown up yet. And someone was like, "You're a UFC fighter, aren't you?" And I was like, "No, but I'm 6'1", by the way."
Yes.
Yeah,
I will give you an autograph for $500.
Yeah, right.
You're right.
Picture autograph right now, $500. Yeah.
Tell you what, I'll let you take me to a nice restaurant.
Yeah, right. Deal. So, what about the film? What would you have done differently now that you can step back, look? And I'm sure you've gotten a lot of feedback from either on Twitter or people sending you texts and calls. Is there anything you would have done differently from a movie perspective?
Oh no, I mean, I think that whenever you make something and you stare at it for so long, I think I've seen the film 2,000 times.
Yeah.
At least. I think there's always like nitpicky things that you could look at and be like, that music transition, man. I don't know if I like that. That's the kind of stuff that I look at more than anything. But I think that, I'm really proud of the way that it came out. And I think that, given all of the things that went into making this, I think that we made the best film possible, for sure.
I thought it was great. Why? I know Chuck and Tito were the guys, like the focus of it, and they were the guys at the time of the UFC that really helped blow it up. But a lot of people, when they say, the UFC blew up, they talk about The Ultimate Fighter and that fight between Stephan Bonnar and Forrest. Why go the route of Chuck and Tito instead of focusing on that and when it blew up from that perspective? Because like in the film, you obviously talk about it, and it's a big part of it. But it starts with Chuck and Tito, and then you go to that part of it.
Yeah, because I think when you look at the show, it's like that show was really significant because what it did at the time is it popular. It put a name to a face, right? And everybody's saying Forrest Griffith. Yeah, those were the guys that fought. Forrest and whatever the other guy's name was.
Stephan Bonnar.
Stephan Bonnar. Yeah, they go out and they fight, and those guys were great, but those guys didn't become like stars like Chuck and Tito,
right?
Or Chuck and Randy even,
Sure.
know. And so you kind of look at those things and you go, that was great, but Randy and Chuck were the coaches, and they were the ones who were kind of like centered around it. It was fun because at the time reality television was really big, Survivor, Big Brother, all of that stuff. And so what the show did is it said, this could be my brother, this could be my friend. It put like a backstory to these guys so they weren't just monsters.
Yeah.
And the person who really exploded from it was Chuck Liddell, because he's the guy that they continued to market after The Ultimate Fighter. And he had that iconic look. It's like you could have changed his face. And the fact that he was, you saw the mohawk,
mm-hmm.
you saw the back of his head, you would know that was a UFC
mohawk
fighter.
And the tattoo.
Yeah.
It's it, man. It's like you could have made a silhouette of Chuck Liddell and been like UFC.
Yeah.
That's what you looked at. People didn't even know MMA. People knew UFC.
People still will be like, people still refer to it as UFC, not MMA.
Yeah. Are you a UFC fighter?
Yeah. Do you do UFC?
Yeah,
I know, right?
Yeah.
And it's just kind of what it is. And right, wrong, or indifferent. I haven't watched much Bellator. I know it's a great organization as well, but what everybody looks at the pinnacle being the UFC.
Yeah,
True.
no doubt.
Yeah.
Timmy, anything?
Yeah. So you did the Chuck and Tito is like the roots, the history of it. Do you have an idea for like a 2.0, the new era, the new wave? Is there a rivalry that you might be pitching?
next step?
Yeah, pitching ESPN or have?
Oh, I haven't pitched any more projects right now. I mean, man, these things take so much of your time and energy. I'm just trying to kind of like regroup now and just kind of like enjoy it. I think often in this business, man, like you go, and you forget the rest element of it, and the celebration part of it. So
sure.
I'm kind of trying to, transition to that phase. But what I will say, if there was one rivalry that I think definitely needs the treatment, it would be Diaz and McGregor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I think that is one of the craziest rivalries, because these guys were so good on the mic, man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck or Tito was good on the mic, but nobody's like Conor on the mic. And the fact that Nate, he'd just take it. He was a lot like Chuck Liddell in that he would just take a punch. I mean, his face was disintegrated when he fought, and he finds a way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty remarkable, And I think, if there's one rivalry out there, I was like, that one's pretty good.
Yeah, I think that one jumps out the most to me too.
And they do have the interim BMF title coming up. Did you see Conor's tweet about that? Are you familiar?
Oh, no, but I'm guessing it.
Well,
I'm guessing it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was fun.
Oh.
Because they're calling it the BMF title with Masvidal and,
is
and Diaz.
it called the BMF?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he said it.
I'm sure that was like by accident too, right?
Well, because Nate said after the fight, he said, "We're the baddest motherfuckers. I want to fight Masvidal for the BMF title." And so now it's this. But then Conor,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know it is awesome. It's funny as shit. And then Connor tweeted the other day, maybe within the last week probably, he goes, when is that interim BMF title, by the way? Obviously calling for hopefully a trilogy.
Yeah.
Or Masvidal if he has to fight him. But there you go. There's your trilogy. There's your story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of really great UFC stories. I think that's one thing that's really special about fighting is that, you know, you have the most primitive sport, you know, and the most primitive thing. You know, you're going, two men testing each other against each other. I mean, that's caveman stuff right there, you know, and it amounts to a lot of drama. And so you're going to have no shortage of stories. And I'd expect a lot more 30 for 30s in that genre.
Or Ronda somewhere in the, there's the rivalry, but Ronda's like a ridiculous
no-brainer.
story.
Yeah.
Ronda's just waiting. I'm sure they're just finding the right director to do it because, you know, it's got to be the right person. That story's incredible.
Yeah, definitely. Well, cool, dude. Anything?
No, that's it.
I know you're busy. You need that rest, recovery, celebration.
Hide out in Kansas.
Yeah.
Next time you're here in LA, let's link up.
This is the place to do it. There's nothing.
Yeah.
This is the place to do it, man. There's nothing to do. Like, what am I gonna do? You know? So, I barely had reception. Hence this.
It worked.
conversation.
It worked. Shit, we'll take it. We appreciate your time. We'll, next time you're out in LA, we'd love to link up. We can hang out, get some coffee, talk some shit.
I know, man. It sounds like you guys are high rollers. I'll just like hang on to man.
Yeah.
That's exactly. We're the highest of high rollers. As we do a podcast in my living room right here.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool, guys.
All right, dude.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
All right, later.
Take care.
See you. Bye.
Thank you for listening. We appreciate it. Again, use our code BS at ourcitycoffee.com. You'll get 15% off any and all coffee orders. You don't have to go to the store. You don't have to drink all that sugar shit at that corner coffee shop. Get some real good quality coffee. You're an adult. Step your game up. Again, thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.